Ahoy hoy all, Druss here and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing something that I have hummed and hawed about for a while now, but why not? We'll just dive straight in. This is one of my vanilla cities and it was built several years ago during the 1.13 release, I believe, of vanilla Minecraft. Now, of course, I am going to be using the Conquest textures. Just give you an idea of what I used to build before I moved to Conquest Reforged. And to be fair, building this was one of the reasons I did move to Conquest Reforged. Because as I was building it, I realised that I wasn't able to have the level of detail that I wanted within the vanilla game, and hence I moved to the mod pack that allowed me build the way I wanted to build. So this city is called Port Bloodsand. It's a city by the sea, and here is just a small inn on the outskirts of the city called the Bloodsand Arms and Stables. Now, all of my interiors were fully furnished back then. Always have been fairly diligent like that, but I was very satisfied with the way this city turned out in the end. It took quite a while to build, as I recall, and again, having watched some Conquest Reforged videos by people like Duke on Red 1 and others like that, I realised that the cities I'd been building up to that point were actually rather bad, and that I could really enhance my builds and take them to a new level of realism, I suppose. So prior to that, if I had done City Gates, this would have been the limit of it. But in this, the City Gates and Portcullis actually have, well, what could be considered to be something of a working mechanism, or as much as that is possible within the vanilla game. So as you can see, they're raised and lowered here, and they have a lever here to manage that. You can walk out onto the walls throughout the city, and the city itself has lore. The city was meant to be ruled over by a tyrant called Lord Azur, and as you walked into the city, I deliberately made it as cramped as possible. I was inspired by a street in Yorkshire, in the town of York, I think, called the Shambles, and so I built all the buildings quite close together and quite cramped. And again, the main street is mostly full of commerce. As you can see, the streets are very run down. Again, with Conquest Reforged, this would look far better now, but unfortunately this was vanilla, so I just made do as I could. The back streets again were just a bit more run down, a little more overgrown, that sort of thing, and the city itself is a bit of a maze. I haven't actually opened up vanilla Minecraft in, I think, quite literally years, so this is as much of a learning experience for me as anything else, because whilst I used to know my way around all these cities backwards, I honestly have forgotten the most of it. But as I said, I think having built the city, this was what inspired me to move on to Conquest Reforged, because I think I had reached the limit of where I could go with vanilla in terms of the level of detail in the builds themselves. The builds themselves are relatively decent, I feel, for vanilla. They had some gradients within them, the blocks, some of it looking a little unusual because of the Conquest Reforged textures, but would have looked a little bit more normal in vanilla, particularly around the dead coral blocks. But again, while it was quite maze-like, it was actually very deliberately made like that. I specifically placed every single street that way for a reason, and again was inspired by a number of different pictures that I saw on kind of medieval fan art and that sort of thing. So yeah, no, here's the gallows. It really was an enjoyable experience building this city, but again, having done it, I am very glad that I made the move to Conquest Reforged. This is the lead up to the main castle, which is a rather unusual style, but again, I was trying to branch out and build things that weren't quite normal and quite kind of, I suppose, European or British in a way. It did also include some kind of fantasy elements. For example, there's a wizard's tower down here. If I can just lower myself carefully to it. And perhaps not. So yeah, this was the wizard's tower alongside a little well, and is proven to be quite difficult to find the actual entrance. And here we have the entrance. So Nixie the court mage, and again it's furnished accordingly. So yeah, no, it was an absolutely enjoyable experience building this, and a little building that arches above the street. That was an ambition of mine for a long time, and in fact the city I'm currently building in Conquest Reforged 1.16 has something like that, but again a lot more advanced. And then we have the church. Again, I think this was inspired possibly by a video by Dukon back in the day. It's possible I'm misremembering, but I think it was. He built something relatively similar, and I took from that design and just edited it, tweaked it a little bit to make it my own, I suppose. But the core design, I think the original design was actually Dukon's, as I recall. And we'll just fly above to see. It was quite a small city considering the scale of some of the other ones I've built, but again, given the level of detail, I had moved from building very basic vanilla stuff from my initial city, which was over that direction, called Seven Hills, and I hope this I achieved, or I was a little more experienced in building something a little more detailed and a little more immersive within this when I finish this build. There is some ships at the dock, and I have a friend on Darwin, Catsko, and I'm sure he is shuddering at the sight of these, well, if he sees them. So apologies, Catsko, these were the limit of my abilities at the time, and I really haven't changed that much in my ship building abilities. One thing it is worth pointing out now that I'm speaking about Darwin is that one of the things that people, newcomers to Darwin, often have is that they do build with vanilla techniques, for example using inverted stairs to support jettying, etc. And I always say that the vast majority of people that come to Conquest Reforged and to begin to use the Conquest Reforged mod pack have come from vanilla, and there is a bit of a learning curve, but everyone has to go through it. I know of only one person, I think, Krim, who just started on Conquest without having played vanilla, but the vast majority of people do come from vanilla, and while I suppose it's great in its own right and you can build things like this, Conquest Reforged does allow you build far more detailed things, and as I said, there's a little learning or relearning within that. So there you have it. But again, it's interesting walking around vanilla streets when you're used to playing with the Conquest mod pack, or the Conquest Reforged mod pack, I feel it helps that I'm using the Conquest textures. Now I'm going to do one thing, because actually I'll walk towards the front of the city, because one of the little details I added within this city was that there is an entire sewer running the length and breadth of the city, and within that sewer, according to the law of the world, was the headquarters of the Thieves Guild, which was originally meant to be from this city, Port Bloodsand, initially. So the headquarters is down somewhere around the main gate, and in fact you can escape the city through the Thieves Guild headquarters. So we'll just try and find a iron trapdoor, for example this one, and we'll go down. Now that is, and here we have the Night Mothers. Again, a lot of the naming around this was inspired by the likes of Skyrim. So this is the Thieves Guild headquarters down here, and there's the Guildmaster Tardy Sam. That may sound familiar if you have read A Song of Ice and Fire. We have a bar here. Again, the barrels were built prior to the inclusion of actual barrel blocks in 1.14. So that explains that. They were just created, and then you have sleeping quarters and just as various escape tunnels. But we'll just go out one particular escape tunnel and we'll end the video there, I think. So we have, again, a map of the city. This was created, I suppose, as a useful, very useful for the Thieves Guild to have that. A small smithy. And then we have Harry. Now Harry is an escape tunnel taken from the escape tunnel of that name during the Second World War, and as you can see, it's very well lit, and it exits through the Port Bloodsand arms that we began with. So it ties the video together quite nicely, I think. So yes, this was Port Bloodsand, one of my last vanilla builds prior to moving to Conquest Reforged. There was one more, Dungallen, which was an elvish city, and that took, again, quite a long time, and I had actually moved to Conquest Reforged and to Darwin Reforged as I was building Dungallen, and once I had finished it, I really turned my back on vanilla and haven't really looked back since. I've remained with the Conquest Reforged mod packing community. But there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm a little bit skeptical as to what people will think of it, given that it's a vanilla build. I'm not too sure myself. I had all sorts of awful habits, like things I have warned against in previous videos, like wonky chimneys and that sort of thing, that I suppose for vanilla you really just are trying to bring interest to the builds, and you don't need that necessarily within the Conquest Reforged mod pack that I know and love. So there we have it. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like and comment, and when you're commenting, please do be mindful of the fact that I kind of am a little bit, not embarrassed, but I look back on this and I think what this could have been with Conquest Reforged, how much better it could have been, and it really could have. You know, this is, while as detailed as I was able to make it, it is a vanilla build, and as such it can be vastly improved using CR. So anyway, listen, we shall leave it there. Thank you very, very much for watching if you have. I really appreciate it greatly. I shall be getting back. This will probably most likely be my last ever vanilla showcase. I don't really have any great interest in vanilla anymore. So back to Conquest Reforged videos from here on in. Until next time, stay frosty and goodbye.